I honestly hope, even though this is only the second season of Isekai Quartet, and I think I can speak for many that we hope it's just the second of many seasons of Isekai Quartet. Should this anime get, in a perfect world, we get 10 seasons. I hope at every, closing moment to this show that we have the, hey, if you do real well, you might be able to go home. And I love how already by the second time we have Ainz saying, yeah, that's total bullshit, that ain't gonna happen ever. It's just the simplest gag that at first I thought was just that one-off gag. I think many of us watching season 1 thought it was a one-and-done show, and then it was quickly, oh no, this is gonna be around for some time, and I love that. Just a simple school festival. You do real well, you might be able to go home, and everyone watching, the characters themselves, they know they're not going home. This is their new home, and I absolutely love that. I think the first thing we definitely have to break down is not only my favorite scene in Isekai Quartet to date, but my favorite scene in Re:Zero, which is the moment where Rem has to basically convince Subaru to push on after he's ready to give up after so much mental torture, because the person that she fell in love with would never give up, would never run away, would never settle for her, would push forward into doing what he believes in, chasing after who he loves. And it's such a beautiful scene, it's a heart-wrenching scene, it's such a gorgeous scene, and we literally just had the mirror, but applied to Aqua, one of the laziest and most useless characters in this show, and as Subaru says, what a perfect scene that basically just got ruined. It's like, yes, that scene where you literally have Demon Rem who has to shake some sense into Aqua because I'm a little proud of her, I'll be honest, she actually did some good work, but she was ready to give up because, of course, that old forgotten friend who tried to ruin the party last time around broke out and has been ruining everything. And the fact that she was so ready to give up, and you essentially have that mirror where Aqua is trying to be Subaru, being like, no, I can't push forward, there's no reason, and we just have almost a mirror of the directing. Beautiful imagery, beautiful shots all around, and I love how it's basically that mirror. And I think whether you know of that scene from Re:Zero or you don't, it's still going to be a funny scene, but knowing what that scene meant in Re:Zero and applying it to such a polar opposite character and situation such as this, it brought a giant grin on my face and was the perfect way to wrap up this episode. I actually was under the impression that even though it was a different class starting up, the Ugly Duckling and things like that, I just figured that either they would all be in on it or just one class would be doing the play. I wasn't expecting both classes to have their own plays. I love the idea of Cinderella, even if Cinderella is a little more twisted than originally I thought it was going to be. I mean, just the idea that, there's certain characters like Shaltir who would love to see Ainz be in Cinderella because who else is better than that, but really it's going to be Rem and Ram, which honestly should be glorious to see if we actually do get to see it, which honestly at this point I hope next week is like a battle of some sort where we get to see both of the plays and then obviously going out on a battle or something like that. But it would be nice to see what they're going to do with it. But just the idea that with last week we really had a philo adventure. We got to see how she would come up with the idea for the play, how it would function. And I was really all for that, and to see that we go back to the main cast that we've been following for 2 seasons now, seeing what they're gonna do, not only do they have to do a food stall, they also have to do their own play, and just thinking in my head the possibility of shenanigans that can happen both for having now Fumi be the Ugly Duckling, which that is going to be a riot in itself, and to have Rem and Ram being Cinderella as the protagonist, it's just there is so much you already know what it's going to look like, but it's also going to be better than we could possibly hope for, and that has me really excited. I didn't know how much I wanted to see a Shaltir versus Naofumi moment until this episode, but I love how Naofumi is just saying, I think what a lot of people are thinking, because we know what this boy's been through, right? He knows how disgusting certain characters can be, and I love how anytime there's a moment for him to criticize a bad person, he'll do it, and it was nice to see how that kind of started pushing against her love for Ainz and how literally they had to be broken up. I love how in similar school fashion, there's always going to be those clashing ideals, those clashing cliques and things like that. There's going to be those different perspectives and ideologies, and I love how you can have someone like the Shield Hero contrast the Overlord characters. The Overlord characters are a force by themselves because pretty much wherever you look, you either have the loyal servants ready to fall on the sword or the thirsty women ready to fall on other things, and it really does provide some interesting contrast when you have characters like the Shield Hero going up against them when he is all about separating from shit like that after what's happened to him in his own theories. So it's pretty great to just see situations like that, or how I think probably one of my new favorite ongoing gags is what's happening with Death Knight, because Death Knight keeps getting supposedly killed and then will just pop up and that damn hamster will be like, oh, Death Knight's back. It's just those little moments, they definitely shape an episode of Isekai Quartet into something truly brilliant, and it's kind of insane to think, but honestly, the idea of school festivals are something that's been abused and used to the point that every high school anime usually has one, unless they somehow avoided it by just sticking to a club room or something like that. And it's not to say they can't be interesting, they definitely can be. I can think of My Teen Romantic Comedy and things like that. There definitely are ways to make it good and compelling, but they're usually pretty basic, if I'm being totally honest. But honestly, I don't think there's a better way to go out for Isekai Quartet Season 2. Honestly, the more basic the idea that we've seen in anime, the more interesting it'll probably be, because you can spice it up in such a way that you can literally have death and destruction in your backyard and characters are going to shrug it off because they've usually seen worse in their own world and know it's like, okay, I mean, the worst part here isn't the giant monster that could kill us, it's that we have to rebuild the school festival. It's like, okay, I mean, what better way to go out if I'm being 100% honest. I do love how they definitely are teasing more and more in terms of like a serious plot. Every so often you'll get a hint of a character bringing up some lore that feels very reminiscent of something like a ReZero or an Overlord, things like that. And it'll be interesting to see what the long-term plan for this show is, because it's not something that's going to end at season 2. Will it get 10 seasons? Probably not. I don't think it's going to last that long. But could it get 5? I definitely think so. Even if they don't introduce a ton of new characters, it definitely feels like, just based on this season, Season 1, not so much, but Season 2, there's been hints and subtle cues from characters like Beatrice and things like that it feels like there's more exploring of why they ended up there than honestly the comedy's letting on. So I'm curious to see if over however many seasons they're going to go, if they're not just going to be funny and breaking the school tropes, but rather they're actually trying to build up to a finish line, which honestly up to this point I really haven't been thinking too much on, but the past few episodes definitely have been giving me that feeling that obviously they're not going to rush to it, they're going to keep this series alive as long as they can because it's not the most difficult thing to produce. People love the characters in it, and it's going to be a cash cow for very little effort compared to a lot of anime productions. And I think it's why simplicity is something to not be shrugged off, because sometimes simple can be the best thing that you're going to watch in an anime season, or at least one of them. So honestly, if they do subtly build up a deeper meaning plot, nothing like super complex, I'm not thinking like an arc similar to a ReZero or an Overlord or something like that, but if they can build up to a finish line where it doesn't just randomly get introduced in its final arc, its final season, something like that, it's going to feel really rewarding, and it would be interesting to see if they ever do, like when they decide to wrap this show up, if they all get to go back to their own worlds. I'm very curious if we would get a sequence where maybe we could have it animated as if it was really from their series. I know when they were originally like kind of sucked into this world, they were already like in their chibi forms, but I think it'd be amazing to have like a season 5, say that's the final season, where they get sucked back into their own world and it's animated as if it was coming from the original studios and their original source materials in the anime form. I think that'd be a really clever way to kind of wrap it all up and bring everything full circle, but obviously that's just me spitballing ideas for something that's not going to happen for a very long time. But every time I feel like we're getting more and more Beatrice, it just kind of feels like there is something more serious underneath the hood, and it'll be interesting to see if they ever do explore that a lot, or if it's going to be more of a tease before they eventually conclude the anime, however many seasons down the road that might be. I just think I could probably watch this for 100 episodes. I mean, literally any pairing of characters works, and I am glad to say that by the second half of this anime, the Shield Hero content has felt like it hasn't been as underwhelming as I thought it was going to be in the first half. They still definitely aren't in it as much as I think many people were expecting, but I definitely still feel as if they're incorporated enough that they don't feel forgotten. I feel like maybe just because Shield Hero is a little more cautious of a series, they were being a little more cautious in introducing him until they got more comfortable, and I imagine in Season 3 we're going to have even more Shield Hero content, especially if they do introduce the cautious hero like I think they're going to. It is very cute though to see the number of characters who don't have like super importance to this show, but they have their little quirks, such as seeing our girl just get so enthusiastic over a chocolate banana, not once, not twice, a few different times in the matter of a single minute. Those little quirks definitely shape the cast into feeling like just a bunch of high school students, despite many of them being in the military, many of them being undead soldiers, many of them literally pulled from isekais where they're suffering to the point of no return, Yet you can have situations where they're just enthusiastic over what food they're going to eat at a school festival. You gotta love this show for its absurdity. Overall, this was a great episode. Favorite Isekai Quartet moment that basically parodies and mirrors my favorite ReZero moment, and I just can't wait to see what they're going to do with the final 2 episodes over the next couple of weeks. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Favorite moment, and where do you think everything's going to go with the wackiness and craziness in the coming episodes? Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you happy new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.